The 27th floor of Sentinel Dynamics was chaos. Red emergency lights pulsed through smoke-filled corridors like the dying heartbeat of a wounded animal. Alarms shrieked through the darkness, drowning out everything except the sound of boots pounding against concrete somewhere below. Getting closer, always closer. Dahlia Ashford pressed her back against the cold wall, her 6-year-old daughter crushed against her chest so tightly she could feel the child's racing heartbeat through both their bodies. Rosalind wasn't crying anymore. She had gone past crying into that terrible silence that only comes when fear has swallowed everything else. In her small hands, Rosalind clutched a worn stuffed rabbit named Captain, named after her father's rank. The father who had been dead for 4 years now, leaving them alone in a world that suddenly felt very, very dangerous. Armed men were hunting them through the building Dahlia had built from nothing. The exits were sealed. No one was coming. And then, through the smoke, a figure emerged. Not security, not police, just the night janitor. The man Dahlia had walked past 1,000 times without ever learning his name. The man she had dismissed just 2 hours ago as a waste of her valuable time when he tried to report something about the security cameras. He stopped in front of her. His eyes were calm. Impossibly calm for someone who fixed air conditioning units for a living. 4 words. That was all he said. "Stand behind me." Before Dahlia could respond, before she could ask who he was or what he thought he was doing, the stairwell door exploded inward with a force that shook the walls. SWAT flooded the corridor, tactical gear, assault rifles, red laser sights cutting through the haze like surgical instruments seeking flesh. 6 weapons swung toward the janitor's chest. Drop the weapon. On the ground. Now. The janitor didn't move. He kept his body positioned between Dahlia and every gun in that hallway. A human shield for a woman who had never bothered to learn his name. The SWAT commander pushed through his team, ready to give the order that would end this standoff with bullets and blood. Then he saw something that stopped him cold. The scar on the janitor's wrist, circular, specific. The kind of burn you only get when a flashbang detonates too close to your hand. The commander's face went pale. He straightened to attention and saluted Captain Calloway. His voice cracked with something that might have been grief or might have been wonder. "We thought you were dead, sir, but to understand how a night janitor became the most dangerous man in that building, you have to go back 6 hours, to when Weston Calloway was still invisible. The apartment was modest. 2 bedrooms in the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia, where the furniture was secondhand and the carpet had worn thin and passed between rooms. The walls were mostly bare, except for one thing. A framed photograph hung above the kitchen table, a 7-year-old girl with wild curls and her father's serious eyes, laughing at Fairmount Park on a summer day that felt like a lifetime ago. Underneath, in careful handwriting, "The only mission that matters." Weston Calloway stood at that kitchen table now, packing his daughter's backpack for the night ahead. Homework folder, emergency snacks, the worn notebook labeled emergency procedures that she probably didn't need, but made him feel better knowing she had. At 5:45, he walked Wren next door to Mrs. Pemberton's apartment. The elderly widow had been watching Wren since she was 4 years old, since Serafina. Wren hugged him at the door with the fierce desperation of a child who understood, even at 7, that parents don't always come home. "Daddy, you'll come back, right?" "Always, little bird." "What's our rule? If you don't call by 6 a.m., I call the number in the kitchen drawer. That's my girl." He kissed her forehead. She smelled like apple shampoo and crayons and everything good left in the world. For one moment, the weight lifted from his shoulders. For one moment, he was just a father saying goodbye to his daughter. Then he walked to the bus stop, and the weight settled back like an old friend who never knew when to leave. His uniform said Sentinel Dynamics Maintenance. His worn leather notebook was tucked in his back pocket, the one where he logged every irregularity, every unlocked door, every camera with a slight delay. Nobody at work knew his real name. Nobody knew he was Captain Weston Calloway, Ghost Unit, United States Special Operations Command. Nobody knew he had led hostage rescue missions in countries that didn't appear on any official map. And nobody knew why he left. The memory came without warning, the way it always did. Desert, night vision green. Gunfire tearing through the darkness like angry hornets. And Serafina's voice, his wife's voice, screaming through the chaos. Go. Get Ren out. I'll cover the wounded. Then an explosion, then silence, then 3 years of learning how to breathe again. Weston shook off the memory as the bus arrived. That was another life. He was nobody now. He preferred it that way. Dahlia Ashford ran her company like a general commands an army. At 34, she had built Sentinel Dynamics from a garage startup into a $2 billion cybersecurity empire. Every firewall, every protocol, every line of defensive code had either been designed by her or personally approved by her exacting standards. She trusted her systems absolutely. She trusted people not at all, especially not after Sterling. The memory lived in her bones. A Navy chaplain at her front door, hat in hands, mouth forming words that would shatter her world. Lieutenant Commander Sterling Ashford. Training exercise. Killed. Sorry for your loss. In the next room, 2-year-old Rosalind had been crying for her father, not understanding why he wasn't coming home, not understanding that he would never come home again. That was 4 years ago. Dahlia had never forgiven the Navy for taking Sterling. She had never forgiven God. And she had certainly never forgiven herself for not saying, I love you the morning he left. Tonight she had brought Rosalind to the office. A $300 million contract needed to be finalized before the platform launched in 72 hours. The nanny had called in sick. That was what she told herself. The truth was simpler and sadder. She didn't trust anyone with her daughter. Not since Sterling died and proved that the people you love can disappear without warning. Rosalind sat in the corner of the executive conference room, coloring quietly, noise-canceling headphones playing her favorite cartoon. In her lap sat Captain, the worn stuffed rabbit named after her father's rank. Mommy, when are we going home? Soon, baby. One more meeting. Around the mahogany conference table, the players gathered. Nathaniel Vance, Chief Financial Officer, silver at his temples, easy smile, 20 years of friendship with Dahlia, everyone's most trusted advisor. Vivian Cross, executive assistant, efficient, anticipating needs before they were spoken. Dahlia considered her indispensable. Theron Locke, head of legal, presenting the final contract terms, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Everything was perfectly normal for the next 90 minutes. Weston noticed what no one else would notice. The fire exit on the 27th floor had a new lock core. Brushed steel, commercial grade, no work order on file. He pulled out his notebook and made a note. He checked the security camera feeds from the maintenance terminal. The hallway camera on 27 had a 3-second delay between the timestamp and the actual footage. Someone had tampered with the system. Someone who knew the building. At 8:15, a man appeared in the loading bay. His ID badge said Tech Services, but Weston knew every face on the tech team. This man was not one of them. His hands were calloused in specific places. Trigger finger, knife grip. His weight was balanced like someone trained for quick movement. His toolbox was too heavy for what it claimed to contain. Weston approached Vivian Cross outside the conference room. Miss Cross, I need to report some irregularities. The fire exit lock on 27 was changed without authorization, and the security camera has a timestamp discrepancy that suggests she didn't look up from her tablet. I'll mention it to Mrs. Ashford. 5 minutes later, the response came back. Tell him the system is functioning perfectly and to stop wasting our time. Weston didn't argue. He never argued. He returned to his station, pulled up the building schematics on his personal laptop, and began mapping every alternative exit route. If the elevators failed, if the main stairwells were compromised, if someone needed to get out in a hurry. He learned long ago, hope is not a strategy, preparation is. What Weston didn't know, what Dahlia could never imagine. Her most trusted friend was about to destroy everything she had built. Nathaniel Vance had been siphoning money from Sentinel Dynamics for 11 months. Small transfers at first disguised as operational expenses, then larger, then much larger. But Nathaniel wasn't greedy. He was desperate. 6 months earlier, a hospital room in Munich. A teenage boy, pale and thin, connected to machines that beeped with mechanical indifference to human suffering. The boy opened his eyes, smiled weakly. "Hey, Dad." Nathaniel gripped his son's hand, tears streaming down a face that had forgotten how to cry. A doctor's voice cut through the moment. "The immunotherapy is working, Mr. Vance. Beckett is responding, but the next phase will cost another $4 million, and your insurance has reached its lifetime cap." Beckett Vance, 16 years old, stage 4 neuroblastoma. The experimental treatment in Germany was the only thing keeping him alive. Obsidian Capital, a shadow investment firm with ties to corporate espionage, offered to fund everything. In exchange, Nathaniel would deliver Sentinel Dynamics proprietary algorithms. But Dahlia was too smart, too careful. She read every document, questioned every clause, trusted nothing she couldn't verify herself. She would never willingly sign away her company. So tonight, Nathaniel hired professionals, 4 men, military training, led by a contractor named Malik Drayton. Their job was simple: create a security incident that locks down the 27th floor, isolate Dahlia, make her afraid. Fear makes people sign things. Fear makes people stop reading the fine print. Nathaniel told himself no one would get hurt. This was just leverage. He told himself Dahlia would rebuild. She was brilliant. She would create something new. He told himself this wasn't really betrayal, but his hands wouldn't stop shaking. 9:30. The board meeting began. 9:47. The lights flickered. 9:48. The power died completely. Dahlia pulled out her phone. No signal. No bars. Nothing. "We're being jammed." Her voice was quiet, but her hands were trembling. And somewhere in the stairwell below, 4 sets of boots began their ascent. Weston was in the maintenance corridor on the 26th floor when the lights died. His hand went to his hip, a reflex from another life, reaching for a sidearm that wasn't there anymore. He froze, listened. Footsteps in the stairwell. Multiple sets. Moving in sync. Too coordinated for evacuating employees. They were ascending. Then he smelled it, the sharp chemical tang of C4 breaching charges. These weren't panicked office workers. These were operators. Half a second. That was all the time he needed to make his decision. Weston sprinted up 2 flights of stairs. The fire doors on 27 were sealed, but he knew the maintenance bypass code. He had memorized every code in the building his first week. His fingers flew across the keypad. The door cracked open just enough for him to slip through. The executive conference room was chaos. Rosalind was screaming. Dahlia was pulling her daughter toward the corner, her face white with terror. Nathaniel stood frozen by the window. Vivian was nowhere to be seen. Dahlia spun when Weston entered. "What are you? Who?" "We need to leave. Now. You're the maintenance man. How did you even get up here?" "Mrs. Ashford." His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. "There are armed men in this building. Your communications are jammed. Every exit is compromised. We have approximately 90 seconds before they reach this floor." Nathaniel spoke up, his voice pitched perfectly between confusion and concern. "That's impossible. The security systems would have..." Weston ignored him completely. His eyes never left Dahlia. Your daughter, is she more important than being right? Dahlia's argument died in her throat. She looked at Rosalind, clutching Captain the Rabbit, tears streaming down her face, too terrified to even cry properly. How do you know all this? Because I know what a tactical breach looks like. He crossed to the window in 3 strides, looked down at the street. 3 unmarked vans, engines running, no license plates. They're here for you specifically. We can discuss why later. Right now we move. Every instinct told Dahlia this was wrong. This was her building, her security system, her company. She had designed the protocols herself. And this man, this nobody who changed light bulbs and unclogged toilets. He was giving her orders. But then she looked at his eyes, really looked, and she saw something that made her blood run cold. This was not the face of a maintenance worker. This was the face of someone who had made life and death decisions under fire. Someone who had seen combat. Someone who had killed. Someone who had lost. Follow me. Stay close. Stay quiet. Do exactly what I say. He led them through a door marked authorized personnel only, into a narrow concrete corridor lit by humming fluorescent tubes. Behind them, from the direction of the conference room, came the sound of a door being kicked in. They were already on the floor. Rosalind's crying echoed off the concrete walls, hiccuping sobs that seemed impossibly loud in the silence between footsteps. They needed to keep moving, but the child's fear was a beacon, broadcasting their location to anyone listening. Weston stopped. He knelt down until he was at Rosalind's eye level. His movements were slow, deliberate, non-threatening. Hey there, what's your name? Rosalind. That's a beautiful name. I'm Weston. And you know what? I have a daughter too. Rosalind's sobbing slowed slightly, curiosity cutting through fear. You do? Her name is Wren, like the little bird. She's 7, just a little bit older than you. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo, a girl with wild curls and serious eyes grinning at the camera. She looks nice. She is. And you know what Wren and I do when we're scared? What? We play a game called Silent Steps. You breathe in. He demonstrated, slow and steady, for 4 counts, then out, for 4 counts. And you walk so quietly that even the shadows can't hear you. Rosalind tried it. In for 4. Out for 4. That's perfect. Your job now is to be the quietest person in this whole building. And when we get out of here, I'll tell Wren she has serious competition. Deal? Rosalind almost smiled. Deal. Dahlia watched this exchange, and something cracked inside her chest. She had met CEOs, senators, 4-star generals, men who commanded armies and controlled billions. Not one of them would have known how to calm a terrified 6-year-old in a smoke-filled corridor. But this janitor, this man she had dismissed, whose name she had never bothered to learn. He spoke to her daughter like she mattered, like her fear was valid, like she was a person, not an inconvenience. You have a daughter. Yes. Where is she now? Safe. With someone I trust. Your wife? Weston was quiet for several steps. My wife died 3 years ago. The words hung in the dark corridor like smoke. Dahlia thought of Sterling, of the chaplain at her door, of the 4 years since that morning when the world stopped making sense. I'm sorry, so am I. They reached a mechanical room, industrial HVAC units, water pumps humming, a single entrance. Weston ushered them inside and closed the door. We stay here until extraction arrives. Extraction? You called someone? Before I came for you. Someone who owes me. Who are you? Before Weston could answer, footsteps echoed outside the door. Multiple sets. They had found the corridor. The door handle rattled. Silence. Then the door exploded inward. Weston moved. The first man through took a shoulder strike to the sternum, dropped instantly. Weston had the man's sidearm before he hit the ground. 2 shots into the overhead lights. The room went dark. In the darkness, Weston was the only one who knew the layout. He moved like water through the black. Silent. Inevitable. The second man went down with a precise strike to the temple. The third tried to run. Weston let him go. He would report back to whoever was running this operation. Buy them time to reposition. 10 seconds. 3 men. 0 casualties. He checked the fallen operators. Unconscious, not dead. Professional restraint. Dahlia stared from behind the water heater. Rosalind's face pressed against her shoulder. Who are you? Weston picked up both weapons. Checked the chambers with the automatic ease of someone who had done it 10,000 times. Someone who used to do this for a living. Do what exactly? He met her eyes in the dim emergency lighting. Rescue people. 7-year-old Wren Calloway sat at Mrs. Pemberton's kitchen table, homework spread before her. But she wasn't working. She was watching the clock. 10:16 p.m. Mrs. Pemberton set a cup of hot cocoa in front of her. Your papa will be fine, little bird. He always comes home. Wren nodded, but she opened the worn notebook her father gave her, the one labeled Emergency Procedures. Mrs. P., can I ask you something? Of course, dear. Why did Daddy stop being a soldier? Mrs. Pemberton was quiet for a long moment. She knew pieces of the story. Everyone on the block had heard whispers about the widow and the husband who used to have nightmares loud enough to wake the building. Some questions, Wren, only your father can answer when he's ready. Wren looked at the clock again. 10:17 p.m. That's what Mommy used to say. She didn't remember her mother's face. She was only 4 when Serafina died. But she remembered her voice, and the lullabies, and the way she smelled like lavender and gunpowder. She'd say, Daddy tells the truth, even when it hurts. Just give him time. Nathaniel Vance crouched in a dark office on the 26th floor, phone pressed to his ear. This wasn't the plan. You said no one would get hurt. The voice on the other end was cold. Plans adapt, Mr. Vance. Get the signature. That's all that matters. She has her daughter with her, a 6-year-old girl. Not our concern. You have 20 minutes. I can't. I won't. Then your son dies, Mr. Vance. The next treatment is in 4 days. Without our funding, Beckett will be dead within a month. The line went dead. Nathaniel sat in the darkness, phone trembling in his hands. He thought of Beckett, pale and thin in that Munich hospital bed, smiling through the pain. Hey, Dad, thanks for not giving up on me. He thought of Rosalind, 6 years old, clutching a stuffed rabbit, the same age Beckett was when the first tumor was found. Nathaniel picked up the radio Malik had given him. Malik, abort the operation. Say again, abort. Pull your men out. It's over. Mr. Vance, if we abort now, Obsidian will... I know what they'll do. His voice broke. I can't buy my son's life with a child's terror. I can't, whatever happens next. Just get your men out of the building. I'll face the consequences. Long pause, understood. We're extracting now. Nathaniel closed his eyes. He had just signed his son's death warrant, and somehow, for the first time in 11 months, he could breathe. The explosion that blew the 27th floor access door was controlled, professional, overwhelming. Flashbangs detonated. Smoke filled the corridor. Red laser sights cut through the haze like surgical instruments. SWAT flooded the floor. 12 operators in full tactical gear, weapons up. Weston stood in the corridor, one of the captured sidearms still in his hand. He hadn't had time to drop it. Behind him, Dahlia held Rosalind, both frozen against the wall. Drop the weapon, on your knees, hands behind your head, 6 weapons trained on his chest. Weston assessed the situation in a fraction of a second. Professional team, good discipline, following protocol. They would shoot if he made any sudden movement. He made his choice. He turned to Dahlia, positioned his body between her and every gun in that corridor, the same human shield he had been providing all night. Stand behind me. Then slowly, carefully, he placed the weapon on the ground. Commander Orion Blackwell pushed through his team, ready to order the takedown. Then he saw the man's face, the posture, the way he was standing, perfectly calm, perfectly balanced, ready to move in any direction, and the scar on his left wrist, circular, specific. A flashbang burn from a detonation that happened too close. Orion knew that scar. He was there when it happened. Everyone hold. His voice was strange, even to himself. Commander? Orion stepped forward. One step, two, until he was close enough to see the man's eyes. Eyes he hadn't seen in 3 years. Eyes that belonged to a dead man. Weston? Hello, Orion. Commander Orion Blackwell did something that shocked every operator on his team. He snapped to attention and saluted. Captain Calloway. His voice cracked. We thought you were dead, sir. After the tribunal, after what happened with Shadow Protocol, you just vanished. Behind him, Dahlia felt the world tilt on its axis. Captain, the night janitor, the man who fixed her building's HVAC system. He was a military officer, a captain in some kind of unit that apparently didn't officially exist, a unit that thought he was dead. There are still hostiles in the building. Weston's voice slipped back into command mode like putting on an old coat. 4 confirmed, possibly more. The inside man is Nathaniel Vance, the company's CFO. Orion's expression hardened. Copy that. Teams, secure all floors. Priority target is Vance. The captain has tactical command. A young SWAT officer spoke up. Commander, with respect, this man was armed. We don't know. This man has more combat experience than everyone on this floor combined. When he gives an order, you follow it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now move. They found Nathaniel Vance in the executive parking garage sitting on the concrete beside his Mercedes. The car wouldn't start. Weston had disabled the ignition system hours ago, part of his standard security check. Nathaniel didn't run, didn't resist. He just looked up with exhausted eyes. It's over, isn't it? Weston approached slowly. Yes. The girl. Rosalind. Is she okay? She's fine. Scared, but fine. Nathaniel closed his eyes, relief and grief mingling on his face. Thank God. Tell me about Obsidian Capital. Everything. So Nathaniel did. He told them about Beckett, the diagnosis, the experimental treatment that was working in Munich, the impossible choice between his son's life and his soul. They came to me when the insurance ran out. They said they could fund everything. All I had to do was deliver the algorithms, make Dahlia sign. He looked at Dahlia, who stood rigid with fury and something that might have been grief. I never wanted anyone hurt. I told them, no violence, just scare her into signing. That was all. You hired armed mercenaries. Dahlia's voice could cut glass. I know. You endangered my daughter. I know. His voice broke completely. I couldn't watch my son die, Dahlia. I couldn't. I tried everything else. Mortgaged my house, sold everything, begged every foundation in the country. Nothing was enough. He looked at his hands. And then I called Malik and told him to abort. When I saw Rosalind, I couldn't anymore. I called it off. Whatever happens to Beckett now, I'll face it. Long silence. Weston spoke quietly. You made a choice no father should ever have to make. That doesn't make it right. He paused. But calling off the attack when you could have pushed through, that matters. That's still something. Nathaniel and Vivian were taken into custody. Malik Drayton and his team were rounded up in the loading bay. They had been extracting when SWAT arrived, just as Nathaniel ordered. In the lobby, Rosalind had finally fallen asleep in her mother's arms, exhausted beyond terror. Orion found Weston leaning against a concrete pillar, staring at nothing. The brass wants to talk to you about reinstating your commission. The tribunal was wrong, Wes. Everyone knows it now. No, you saved lives tonight. You proved. I have a daughter, Orion. She's 7 years old. She's already lost her mother. I won't risk leaving her an orphan. Orion was quiet for a long moment. Serafina would be proud of you. You know that, right? Weston's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I know. Dahlia approached him. Rosalind was with a trauma counselor now, being gently coaxed into a normal conversation about her favorite cartoons. I need to know who you really are. Weston looked at her. This woman who ran a $2 billion empire, who trusted no one, who called him a waste of time just hours ago. I'm a father who works nights so I can be home when my daughter gets out of school. That's not all you are. Maybe not, but it's the part that matters. Dahlia studied him. Your wife, Serafina. What happened? He was quiet for a long time. She was a field medic, attached to my unit. We weren't supposed to fall in love, but he shrugged. We did anyway. What happened to her? Mission went wrong. We were ambushed. She stayed behind to help the wounded while I got Ren out. His voice flattened. She didn't make it. I'm sorry. Your husband. Sterling. Navy pilot? Dahlia blinked. How did you know that? Company newsletter. You gave a scholarship in his name. I read everything about the building I work in. Something softened in her face. You really do notice everything, don't you? It's what kept me alive. Now it's what keeps me sane. They stood in silence. Two people who understood loss. Two single parents who never expected to find anyone who understood. I owe you everything, Dahlia finally said. My life, my daughter's life. I want to give you something in return. Head of security. Name your salary. Weston smiled. It was genuine. Thank you. But no, why not? Because I like being invisible, Mrs. Ashford. It's safer. For everyone. After tonight, you're not invisible anymore. Not to me. His gaze held hers, unwavering. Maybe that's okay. 3 months later, sunlight streamed through clean windows. The apartment looked different now. Warmer. There were new photographs on the walls. Ren at a birthday party. Ren and Rosalind building a sandcastle. 4 people laughing at something off camera. Weston stood at the stove, making pancakes shaped like birds. Ren bounced into the kitchen, already dressed. Daddy, Daddy. Is today the day? What day? Don't pretend. You know what day. He laughed, a real laugh, the kind that used to be rare. Go make sure your room is clean. They'll be here in an hour. Ren raced off. Weston flipped a pancake and allowed himself a moment. 3 months since the longest night of his life. 3 months since Dahlia Ashford saw him. Really saw him. For the first time. 3 months of something that felt terrifyingly like hope. The doorbell rang. Ren sprinted to answer it before Weston could even turn off the stove. Miss Dahlia. Dahlia stood in the doorway, dressed casually for the first time Weston had ever seen. Beside her, Rosalind clutched a picnic basket. Hey, sweetheart. Dahlia caught Ren in a hug. Ready for the park? I've been ready since forever. Rosalind tugged Ren's sleeve. Ren, can I show you the new captain? You got captain fixed? The lady sewed his ear back on. The 2 girls raced off to Ren's room, already giggling. Dahlia stepped inside. Weston handed her a cup of coffee. Sleep okay? Better. The nightmares are less frequent. They fade. Eventually, she looked at him. How long did yours take? 3 years. and counting. From the other room, they heard the girls talking, then Wren's voice suddenly serious. Rosie, you know what I think? What? I think sometimes families aren't born. They're found. Like when you find the missing piece of a puzzle you didn't know was incomplete. Dahlia's breath caught. She looked at Weston. His eyes were soft in a way she had never seen before. She says things like that sometimes, he murmured. I don't know where she gets it. She gets it from being loved. They walked through Fairmount Park together. Weston, Dahlia, Wren, Rosalind. The girls ran ahead, chasing each other through the grass. Dahlia's hand brushed against Weston's. He didn't pull away. I've been thinking, about what? About what you said that night. Stand behind me. No one has ever said that to me before. Not Sterling, not anyone. She paused. I was always the one standing alone. You don't have to stand alone anymore. She stopped, turned to face him. I'm terrified, Weston. I don't know how to do this. I haven't loved anyone since Sterling died. I don't even know if I remember how. He took her hand. Properly this time. I don't know either. But I'd like to figure it out. He paused. With you. Even though I'm difficult and controlling, and I once called you a waste of time? He laughed. Even then. Why? He searched her face, memorizing every line. Because you're not just powerful, Dahlia. You're brave. You held your daughter through the worst night of your life and never fell apart. You trusted me when you had no reason to. He paused. And because Wren gives you 5 stars, she's never given anyone 5 stars before. Dahlia laughed, genuine, unguarded. The sound surprised even her. 5 stars? Her rating system for people. Don't ask. The 4 of them sat on a picnic blanket. The remains of lunch spread around them. Wren and Rosalind were making flower crowns. Rosalind finished hers and placed it carefully on Dahlia's head. There. Now you're a queen. Thank you, baby. Wren put hers on Weston. And Daddy's a king, but a secret king, like in stories where the king pretends to be a farmer. Weston caught Dahlia's eye. They both smiled. Wren, Rosalind said suddenly, can I ask you something? Sure. Is it okay if my mommy and your daddy... She trailed off, uncertain. Wren considered this with 7-year-old gravity. Rosie, you know what my mommy used to say? What? She used to say that love doesn't run out. It just grows, like a garden. The more you plant, the more flowers you get. She looked at Rosalind with absolute seriousness. I think we have room for more flowers. Dahlia's eyes filled with tears. She pulled both girls into a hug. Weston watched them. 3 people who were strangers 3 months ago, now tangled together like they had always belonged. He thought of Serafina, of the life they planned, of the family they almost had, and he realized this was the life she would have wanted for him. Not alone, not invisible, found. That evening, as the sun set over Philadelphia, Weston carried a sleeping Wren to the car. Dahlia walked beside him, Rosalind's hand in hers. Weston? Yeah, thank you for standing in front of us that night. He looked at her, this woman who saw him when no one else did. Thank you for seeing me. They walked together into the fading light. 2 broken families becoming one. 2 people who thought they would never love again, learning how. And 2 little girls who understood, long before the adults did, that sometimes the missing piece was there all along. You just had to look.